Good morning, beloveds. It is Saturday, November 14th, and it's hot. Okay. So clearly my knee is improving because I walked faster today. We actually got home in time for us to give one of the cats their meds. So right now I have two cats that are in treatment. The thyroid cat, Hayes, he gets an ear gel twice a day, and we've been doing that for a couple of years, and that's nothing. But here's the problem with viruses. We have a respiratory virus, and everybody in the house has the respiratory virus. The cats. But for the most part, we give them lysine, it keeps it under control. Well, my little one, Sugar, she's been very, exorcist sneezing. And I was like, finally, we have to take her to the vet. So the problem with viruses is, yes, they tank out your immune system and they make you feel awful. But it's the secondary bacterial infections that can really be the problem. Because when Tom took her to the vet gave her, because her poor nose was just crusted. And so Tom took her to the vet, and and they gave her an antibiotic. Now, viruses do not respond to antibiotics. They don't. But her nose is so much better. She can now smell, and that's the problem with cats, is when they can't smell, they won't eat. Because she'd lost a half a pound, and she only weighs 7 pounds to begin with. That's terrifying. But she's so much better just with that antibiotic shot. So, yeah. It's like, it's not one thing. Unfortunately, if you catch a virus, then you have to be so careful, because the bacteria, then the virus just opens the immune system up to all these bacteria that normally we would be able to handle. So she's not real happy with me. They're like, oh, just mix it in her food. She's not smelling her food. She's not eating her food. Therefore, I have to dissolve it in water, and then we have to squirt it in her mouth. But she's getting better. And I'm sure this is exactly what you got on to hear me talk about my cat. But it's super important to know that when you catch a virus, you got to be aware of the secondary bacterial infections with respiratory. That's where the danger is, and that's where the trouble comes in. All right. It is November 14th. It is Saturday. I did go to the squirrel park. I did go to the park and talk to the squirrels, but a lot of them were like, yeah, no. Okay. So November 4th, our title is Christ. Till we all come in the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the sons of God, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. And that is from Ephesians 4:13. Okay. The Bible tells us the real self of each of us is Christ. This Christ is the perfect, invisible presence back of, in, and through every living soul. Just as there is but one God, or first cause, so there is but one person, the manifest of the divine Spirit in and through all people. Throughout the ages, this Christ has come with some degree of clarity to those who have meditated long and earnestly upon the nature of the divinity that is in everything. Today, I permit Christ to be born in my consciousness. Today, I realize that Christ is the universal person, appearing through every deed of goodness, truth, or love. As I unveil the Christ in my own nature, I know that the countenance of the same Christ will be revealed to me through others. I enter into my divine inheritance through the recognition of my union with the Supreme Spirit. All right. And then from the Science of Mind text, we must understand that the Christ is not a person, but a principle. As the human gives way to the divine in all people, they become the Christ. And that is from the text, Science of Mind text, 359. All right. I'm not terribly familiar with Ephesians. I'll just be honest with you there. So, till we all come to the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of sons of man unto... No. I got it right the first time. Okay. I'm gonna work. I'm definitely gonna have to work this one. Okay. Till we all come to the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the sons of God, into a perfect man, into the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. Okay. So two things that jump out at me at that Bible quote. Like I said, that's Ephesians 4:13. It says the unity of faith. It doesn't say what faith. It just says the unity of faith, which that jumped out at me. And then it says, and of the knowledge of the sons of God. Multiple. One of the things that we talk about in Science of Mind is that we are the children of God. And frequently our Christian counterparts take Jesus to be the only Son of God. But right here, because this is from the Bible, it says the sons of God, which means that they recognize that we're all children of God. So Jesus, yes, Jesus is a child of God, but that also means that they recognize that you are a child of God and I'm a child of God. Language, I understand. Translation, sons. That's why I'm using the word sons. Unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. So, the unity of faith and the knowledge of the sons of God, unto a perfect man, into the measure of the stature of the full... Okay, so then... Fullness of the unity of faith and the knowledge of the children of God. The Bible tells us that the real self of each of us is Christ. And so this Christ is the perfect individual presence, capital P, back of, in, and through every living soul, which clearly Ernest is telling us that every one of us has the potential for the Christ consciousness. It's already there. All we have to do is be open, willing, and open and willing. We have to be open and willing for the Christ consciousness to come forth in us. I also think we have to be willing to see it in each other. It's like, and I guess that's one of the things that bothered me. Oh, okay. I was raised Catholic, which means I was raised Christian. Although you get into religious debates, there are a whole lot of Christians that don't think Catholics are Christian. So, but because they said that nobody could be Christ, nobody could live up to that example. And I'm like, then what's the point of even trying? Nobody wants to fail. Absolutely nobody wants to fail. So then why would I try to live up to something that I've been told that I can't? And that is one of the things, the difference between Science of Mind is because, and please do not let me damn all Christian faiths with the same brush. I haven't experienced all of them. Maybe they don't all say that, but a wide variety of the ones that I've encountered do say that. So what I like about Science of Mind is that they say, this is an example. Jesus is an example. Follow his example. You are capable of this. You are capable of the Christ consciousness. You have the ability, because you are born with the innate Christ consciousness already installed, if you want to use the software. It's already installed. You just have to basically unlock it. It's like there's a password. It's password protected. But what's the password? Love. I would argue that the password protection to the Christ consciousness is love. And it means learning to love yourself and learning to love others and learning to love the unity, to recognize that there is one, that we're all part of that same one. And the password is love. The password is love. Okay. So we all have access to it. And it's a fairly easy password that seems so hard for us. Just as there is but one God or first cause, there is just one person, and that's a capital P, the manifestation of the divine spirit in and through all people. So it is the multiplicity in the unity. Yes. Throughout the ages, this Christ has come with some degree of clarity to those who have meditated long and earnestly upon the nature of the divinity that is in everything. Whoa. To some degree of clarity to those who have meditated long and earnestly. Long and earnestly. At which point then you're like, well, then what is the nature of the divinity? Well, Ernest tells you a lot. The nature of the divinity is love. It's also creation, creativity, joy, gratitude, happiness, but it all comes back to love. The password is love. Today, I permit the Christ to be born in my consciousness. That's being open and willing. Today, I realize that the Christ is the universal person, capital P, appearing through every deed of goodness, truth, or love. That's why I think that the password is love. Because anytime we do a deed out of the goodness of our heart, we do it out of we do the deed in truth, or our action is in the service of truth or love. Be that in action or feeling or whatever, then yes, that's where the Christ is. So even if we're not conscious of it, when we do things in those veins, in love, truth, beauty, gratitude, joy, and happiness, that's where the Christ is appearing. So even if we're not conscious of the Christ consciousness, it's already there. It's already active. It's already working. We're just not consciously acknowledging it. Which means we're already using it. So even if we're not consciously using the Christ consciousness, the Christ consciousness is constantly using us when we do love, truth, beauty. Okay. That's an interesting idea. I'm going to have to give that some more thought. It's like, if we already come with the Christ consciousness installed, then while we may not be consciously using the Christ consciousness is working through us in all of those ways. Which would be then, the more we practice those ways, the closer we're coming to conscious Christ consciousness. I'm going to have to give this some more thought. Which means I need to write that down. Which I will do as soon as I get off my phone. All right. As I unveil the Christ in my own nature, by doing these, love, truth, beauty, gratitude, happiness, creation, any creative activity, I know that the countenance of the same Christ will be revealed to me through others. And that's kind of one of the things that's like, we say it a lot, look into the eyes of others and see God looking back at you. But now in this one, he's going one step further. He's like, look into the eyes of another and see the Christ consciousness looking back at you. It's like, acknowledge the Christ consciousness in others when they are acting in service to it. The love, the truth, the beauty, whatever that is, acknowledge it. I mean, it might be weird to come up and say to somebody, hey, I see you acting in the Christ consciousness. But if you acknowledge it in the ether, that goes back to that holding space. It's like, oh, I recognize the Christ consciousness in you. The Christ consciousness in me recognizes the Christ consciousness in you. When I mentioned the namaste the other day, that's kind of the God in me recognizes, the God in me greets the God in you. So when you are in service, then the Christ consciousness in you is recognizing the Christ consciousness in the other. Okay. As a friend of mine from ministerial school, his name is Reverend Patrick, would say, well, I found my growing edge. This is something for me to work on. I'm excited about it. Okay, so it's going to be revealed to me through others. I know that the countenance of the same Christ will be revealed to me through others. It's like I can look anywhere and see the Christ consciousness looking back at me. That's kind of exciting. I enter into my divine inheritance through the recognition of my union with the Supreme Spirit. Well, yeah. Okay, now, Science of Mind textbook. We must understand the Christ is not a person, which he used the little p there, but a principle. I use the example software. It is a software that is already installed in us. When Ernest was writing, computers weren't common. So obviously I'm updating his analogy here. As the human gives way to the divine in all people, they become the Christ. Meaning that we all have the opportunity. Not just the potential, but the opportunity to engage that Christ consciousness consciously, to live it, to breathe it, to work it, to be it. And that, my friends, is exciting. That is just, yeah, that we come hardwired, we come with that software already downloaded, and we all have the ability. The question is, do we have the desire and the willingness? So, but I would suspect if you're watching this, you do. So, and I don't think that you have to meditate long and earnestly. Although, if you want to, I firmly encourage you to meditate long and earnestly on the nature of the divinity. But I would tell you that the way that we do this is to engage in acts of love, engage in acts of creation, engage in acts of happiness, engage in acts of truth, and engage in acts of beauty. You know, do things that feed your soul. In the park today, there were no less than 3 other people with bags of peanuts playing with the squirrels. It's a silly way to engage the Christ consciousness, but it is. And I'm not saying silly as in wrong. Silly as in fun. It's a silly way to engage the Christ consciousness. So our mission today, should we choose to accept it, he says, today I permit the Christ to be born in my consciousness. So I would say our mission today is to put that password in to the Christ consciousness, that password of love, and allow it to start running in the foreground instead of in the background. Because clearly we all have the Christ consciousness running in the background. Let's bring it up into the main operating system. And we do that through truth, through love, through beauty, through peace, through meditating, through silly acts of feeding peanuts to the squirrels in the park, taking your dog for a walk, because that makes the dog happy. So I am sure that you have many wonderful, fantastic ideas on how to do that. So I encourage you to find them, because you got the password. We were born with the password. We just kind of forgot, I guess. All right. Well, I'm going to move into the process of my day. I have an eye doctor appointment that I have to get to, so I got to get my PT done. So I encourage you to do something loving for yourself, do something kind for yourself, do something compassionate for yourself today, because that is how you engage the Christ consciousness. And do something to engage your mind and your body today. I complained at the beginning about it being hot, and it's in the 70s. It's going to be in the 80s. And then we have a little bit of a cool front coming in. But that doesn't mean that you can't open your windows, get some fresh air. Open the windows of your soul. Allow the breath of heaven to remind you that you live in heaven now. And to remind you that you came into this mortal coil with the Christ consciousness already installed. And you have the password in your hand. All right? You absolutely have it. And it's already running in the background. All you got to do is unlock it with that password and let it run in the foreground. Let the love flow. All right, beloveds. Reverend David will be on with you around 5 p.m. I will be back with you at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and then we will have a fantastic service for you at 11 a.m. right here on Facebook Live. All right. Have a wonderful day, beloveds.